You're listening to the Why Boarding School podcast, broadcasting around the world. Join us as we promote independent boarding schools throughout the United States and Canada with our invited guests. Now, here's your host, Dr. Jeffrey Quebec.
Welcome to the Why Boarding School podcast. I'm Jeff Quebec, and today I'm joined by the Director of Enrollment Operations at Fountain Valley School in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Alex Winnicker. Welcome, Alex. It's great to have you here today.
Thanks, Jeffrey. Appreciate you having me on.
So going back to its founding in 1930, Fountain Valley School certainly has unique history, from its origins as starting a boarding school for boys on a large ranch to going coeducational in 1975. So Alex, perhaps you can start off by giving our audience a brief overview of the number of students at Fountain Valley School, the grades you offer, where their students come from, etc.
Yeah, sure. So you're 100% right. And it's kind of even a more interesting story because Fountain Valley was founded by families from Connecticut. So they were on the East Coast looking at New England boarding schools, decided that wasn't right for their boys. They wanted it to be more in touch with nature out on the West Coast, that kind of idea. So they bought thousands of acres of land, which now we have, an 1,100 acre campus plus another mountain campus about 2 hours away. Right now we're sitting around 230 students on what used to be the Lazy Bee Ranch. We actually had cattle on campus until about 5 years ago. We still have 70 plus horses on campus and a big equestrian program. We serve 9 to 12, and right now, this year, we're pulling from 26 different states and 20 countries. So that always fluctuates a little bit.
Oh, that's great. And so what is the academic curriculum like at Fountain Valley School?
So it's interesting because we're part traditional, but part not at the same time. So in the last couple of years, we've really revamped what we do to focus on very specific items for 9, 10, 11, and 12. So ninth grade, we really put everything around the idea of the Great American West, really focus on something systems learning. So we start with the ecology, biology, place-based learning, how the land and the people there and make a difference. 10th grade then goes to global learning. So then we kind of flip it. We do world histories, things like that. 11th grade is a lot of focus on leadership. So a lot of the classes, and then obviously you get into the bigger extracurriculars and higher end. And then 12th grade focuses a lot on the capstone program. So it's very specific as it builds, and it builds on itself as it goes up.
That's awesome. And can you talk a little bit about the academic support that Fountain Valley offers?
Yeah, so we have an academic skills center, which anybody can pop into. That's run by our Dean of Academics. So that's from a wide range of individuals, just need a little bit of homework help, a little bit of organizational help. We also have another level up called the ASIP, which is the Academic Skills Instruction Program. So that is an additional one that you can take that would be for students who need a little bit more on the organizational side. And that would actually be a class that's scheduled in their normal schedule. And then on top of that, of course, you have an advisory. So every advisor has 8 to 10 students across grades 9 to 12. You have a dorm head who's always your go-to. We have counselors on campus, nurses on campus. So there's a bevy of people on campus. And faculty-wise, 99% of our faculty live on campus. So that's something that we always have a ton of support for our students there.
So Alex, as we're speaking about your curriculum at Fountain Valley, can you tell the audience a little bit about the visual performing arts offerings?
Yeah, so our visual and performing arts, we have an art barn. So it used to be an actual barn. It's one of the original buildings on campus, actually. It's a 3-story building that's fully dedicated to visual art. So the bottom floor is all about 3D. We have metalsmithing, pottery, sculpture, all kinds of things, plus a display space. Then upstairs, it's all about 2D. So it's painting, it's drawing, it's printmaking. We have digital photography. We have a dark room. So we actually make the kids learn how to use real film, which is shocker when they get on campus. It's black and white film. And then plus we have the digital side, the videography, broadcasting. And then on the performing side, we currently have a black box theater, and you can take theater classes during the day, but we also have performances at night as well. So you can take part in that. We have 3 performances a year, usually 1 musical, 1 drama, and 1 kind of other, which could be a comedy, could be something quirky, something of that nature. And then we also have musical offerings too. So we have choir, we have jazz band, we have concerts several times a year as well.
I like how you still offer the black and white photography. Certainly, it's nice for the students to receive that foundation.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. They do cool things too in that class. During first semester in that class, they make pinhole cameras and they can use any product they want. So, being that's in the fall, I've seen pinhole cameras in masks, I've seen pinhole cameras in pumpkins, and then they actually have to like make it, use it, develop it. And when you look at the camera, you're like, there's no way that's going to work. No, it works. And it actually creates really good photography. So it's kind of a cool skill that the kids get to play with and kind of push themselves a little bit to be like, okay, what's the strangest thing I can use and still make this work?
How fun. So perhaps are there any special signature programs that are offered at Fountain Valley?
Probably the number one signature program is our interim program, which that is a week to 10 days right before spring break in March. So they do that, and then there's 2 weeks of spring break. And that, again, going back to the curriculum, it's very specific to the 9, 10, 11, 12. So ninth grade, the students do on campus, and then at our mountain campus, which is in Salida, which is like 2.5 hours from us, on the western slope. So if you don't know, Colorado's split between the Front Range and the Western Slope. Front Range is where Colorado Springs is, Denver, Boulder, Fort Collins. Western Slope is Aspen, Breckenridge, Telluride, Vail. That's on that side. And so the ninth graders do stuff on campus. Again, all about Great American West. They do trail maintenance. Everybody gets on a horse. Everybody gets on our climbing wall, which is the largest of any high school in the nation. Everybody gets on a mountain bike. Then they go to the mountain campus and they do hiking and stargazing. 10th grade, every single student goes on a global trip. So every single student goes out of the country, and that would be based on the language they're taking, or depending on if they're, for instance, an Asian student, we're not going to send them to an Asian country. Our Asian students this year are going to Australia because they need to work on English, and we're not just going to send them somewhere in the US. And then 11th and 12th grade, they get more choices. So there's a whole bevy of choices that might be language-based, might be community service-based, could be domestic, could be international. Last year they did scuba diving, so everybody came out scuba diving in the Baja Peninsula, and everybody came out as certified scuba divers. They do kayaking in California. They went to Kauai and did an ecology trip in Kauai to understand what's happening to the land. So those are kind of the different sort of examples of things that they do on the interim trips.
Those sound like some awesome opportunities for high school students.
It is pretty cool. Usually that's the part of when we give tours on campus and talk to parents. Parents are like, how do I sign up to be like a volunteer? You're like, no, not so much. Even I haven't been a volunteer yet. I haven't been asked to go on one. So I'm waiting for the right opportunity.
There you go, Alex. You're strategic.
Yeah, exactly.
So how about athletics? Is every student required to play a sport? And also, what are some of the athletic offerings that Fountain Valley has?
Yeah, everybody has to do one after-school activity every semester. So, or 3 times a year, actually. So it's every season. That could be an athletic endeavor, but we also include theater in there because theater could be a 3-season thing. We also include things like robotics, yearbook, some of the more robust clubs that we have. And then on the athletic side, we have 3 seasons of offerings. It could be traditional sports like soccer, basketball, volleyball, things like that. We also have a lot of mountain sports. So we have mountain biking, we have climbing, we have, again, equestrian, we have Western and English riding. We have boys lacrosse, tennis. So there's a whole bunch of options. We also have things like strength and conditioning. There is an offering called outdoor programming, which is kind of cool. So you learn all about how to be outside and everything like that. So there's a lot of different options. And again, going back to the art piece, there's also a broadcasting club. So the broadcasting club then films and produces all of those athletic endeavors. So that's kind of like a good juxtaposition between I like athletics, but I also want to get in on the art and digital side of things.
And I assume that as far as the athletic endeavors, that's something that then share with the families back home so they were able to see their children participating?
Yeah, they'll live stream and then they'll post it on the different sites and social media so people can see from all over the world.
Very nice. So Alex, we're going to take a quick break here. And when we come back, we're going to continue our conversation about the Fountain Valley School in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Do you have any questions or guests that you'd like to see on an upcoming Why Boarding School podcast? You can contact us directly through our website at whyboardingschool.com. Now, back to our show.
Welcome back to the Why Boarding School podcast, and I'm Jeff Quebec, joined by the Director of Enrollment Operations at the Fountain Valley School in Colorado Springs, Colorado, Alex Winnicker. It's great to have you here today, Alex.
And thanks again, Jeff.
Yeah, and Alex, what is a typical school day like at Fountain Valley School?
It's long, but that's what boarding schools are, right? Boarding schools have long days. We have boarding day and international students. So, but 70% of our students are boarding, and we want a good boarding school experience. So the kids start classes at 8:30 in the morning, go through the morning, have lunch, go through the afternoon, end at 3:15. Then we have our after school activities, which are 3:30 to 5:30. If the day students then want to leave campus, they're allowed to leave campus. We have buses and such. But if they don't, they can then stay. And we have dinner. There's study hall, 7:30 to 9:30, which are in the dorms, in our library. You can get extra help from faculty and such. And then after that, it's kind of, lights out or be quiet and don't bother your neighbor kind of deal. So it ends up being pretty lengthy if everybody wants to take advantage of everything we have to offer.
That's great. And certainly after the busy day, I'm sure they're quite tired come evening.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the point, right?
So, Alex, how about the weekends at Fountain Valley School? What are they like? Are there events on campus, trips off campus, different clubs and activities, et cetera?
Yeah, it depends on the time of year. So there's a lot of things that happen starting usually Thursday, Friday night. So earlier in the week, our dean's office sends out what they call a menu of items, and the students can sign up for whatever they want. And that's, again, the day students are encouraged to take part. They've really taken part in the last number of years. Obviously, the boarding and international students do as well. There's things that are on campus. So we might have dances. There's something called Danes-a-Palooza, which is a performance that we do on our graduation lawn with a beautiful view of the mountains because we're, right up against the Rocky Mountains. You can see Pikes Peak from our campus. So that is a performance space where students can perform anything they want.
And Susan, for those who don't know, the Danes are the school mascot at Fountain Valley School.
Yeah. We have a lot of kitschy names with Danes in it. So Danes-a-Palooza and stuff like that. And so then there's also weekend things. There's trips. There's community service. There's ski trips. Obviously, hello, we're in Colorado near some of the best ski resorts in the world. So we had 21 ski trips last year. There's ski weekend. And then it could also be things like go up to Denver to go to an art museum, go into town and go into Colorado Springs and just walk around, go to a Target, go to a grocery, go on a hike, things like that. So there's always a lot of options that our faculty take the students off campus, but then there might be things on campus too. They might have, video game competitions, or sometimes students just want to hang out because, like you said, it's a long day. It can be a long week, especially when you get to things like midterms, exams, finals. They just need a little bit of extra time sometimes.
That's great. And how about the meals? What are the meals like on campus? Are they served sit down? Are they buffet? Are they required? Not required? How's that work?
They're not required. They're good. I have gained 10 pounds since I started at the school. So they are tasty. We have, 3 regular meals a day, breakfast, lunch, dinner, but the dining hall is also always open throughout the day. So kids can go and use the ice cream machine. There's always coffee and tea. There's bread out, stuff like that. They are required first semester for the freshmen because the freshmen have to check in and make sure at the dean's office that they're there and everything. But after that, if the students want to come, which most of them do, I see almost all the students at lunch, and then breakfast and dinner is kind of their option. And we have full-size kitchens in every dorm. So we have 10 dorms, 5 male, 5 female, usually 15 to 18 students in a dorm, and they have full-size kitchens. So they have a full-size fridge, full-size oven, everything, hence we do grocery trips. And then on top of that, in our campus center, we have something called the Arcade Cafe, which has all kinds of things and lattes and specialty foods and desserts and stuff like that too.
So Alex, you mentioned the dorms. What is dorm life like at Fountain Valley School?
It's cozy. being, in the West, in the Mountain West, in the Southwest, however exactly you want to define Colorado and Colorado Springs, our dorms are very much that kind of Southwest style. If you think of something that would be kind of like New Mexico, Adobe, that orangey yellowish color, like that's what our buildings all look like. So 10 dorms, pretty spacious. Every one of them has common space, usually has TV, couches, video games. Every one of them has laundry in them. And like I mentioned before, every dorm has a dorm head. So we have a faculty or staff member who has an apartment attached to the dorm. So they're kind of the go-to for that. All of our students have dorm duties. So they do like a little list of dorm duties, make sure they clean stuff up, make sure they pick up after themselves. Again, teaching that like responsibility, self-advocacy, things like that. And then, during the day, the students, if they have a free period, including the day students, can just go and hang out and talk to each other and such. So I think the students really like our dorms. I think they find them very comfortable. They tend to hang out in there a lot. The rooms are pretty spacious. It's either 2 or 3 students in a dorm. A lot of the dorms even have like full-size closets and such. I can tell you one thing, these dorms, and I used to work at the college level too, and when I was in college, these dorms are better than the ones that I've seen, both at the college I went to and the colleges I worked at. So that, I think, says a decent amount, because I went to Penn State, which is a big school, and I
That's
would
awesome.
take these dorms over
That's
that.
awesome. So in addition to the dormitory house parents, is there also an advisor system at Fountain Valley School?
Yeah, so we have an advisory program. So an advisor has 8 to 10 students, cross grade levels 9 to 12, and co-ed. That is the parents go to. That's also the students go to for the first line. So if parents want to have a question, if there's any issues, obviously, if there's any academic, disciplinary, stuff like that, that all goes to the advisor. Our advisory groups are also usually when we have sit down dinners. So going back to the dining hall thing, dining hall is buffet style mostly. We have certain times a year after concerts and such that we have formal dinners. So usually then they sit in their advisory groups. We also every Monday have all school. So the entirety of the school, all students, all faculty, all go into our one building. And, there's announcements, there's celebrations, and they sit in advisory groups there as well.
Would you say, is there a typical Fountain Valley School student?
And you know what? Typical, not necessarily. What there is a student who I believe, in my experience there and talking to students and faculty who have been there a number of years, and our faculty go back as far as 30 years. I think our longest tenured faculty right now is on year 32. So in talking with him, there's not necessarily a typical student, but there's one that does well at the school. And that is generally someone who wants something a little bit different, but still wants the rigorous academics. So we're, going to be a little bit more casual, being where we are, a little bit more outdoorsy, again, being where we are. But part of it is, and this is what I always tell students, and this is how I instruct my staff to talk to families too, is a student that likes to try things. They want to push themselves. They want to go outside of their comfort zones. Yes, academics is important. Yes, getting into a good college is important. And we have a great college counseling office that helps with that as much as possible to get people on the right track. But it's more than that. It's more about learning about yourself, figuring out that responsibility side, that self-advocacy side, pushing your boundaries a little bit. And I think that kind of student does really well when they're willing to try stuff and jump into several clubs, several different kinds of sports. In the spring, for instance, we have like a learn to mountain bike kind of idea. So our mountain biking competition is in the fall, but in the spring you can try it. And somebody who's never touched a mountain bike or somebody who's never touched a horse before, like try the mountain biking program, try the equestrian program for one semester, see how it is, see what you learn about yourself. So I think that type of mindset of a student is the one who does really well in Fountain Valley.
That's great. It sounds like there's so many different unique opportunities to explore and to try new things.
Yeah, and a little bit different than a lot of other, I know as boarding schools, we all have our little unique natures. But, if that's your thing, it's great. If you are a little bit more casual and you don't want a uniform, we're your place. If you want it more preppy and you want to wear a tie every day, which, I went to a private high school and I had to wear a tie and blazer every day. That was my thing at the time. Now, as you can see from what I'm wearing now, collared shirt, a nice little sweater, I'm like nice and cozy. This is how more I dress every day, wearing jeans and such like that. So it's really just how you like to learn and, again, what feels right to you when you get on campuses.
So, Alex, speaking about unique, are there sort of any cool traditions at Fountain Valley School that may be unique from other schools, or perhaps there's that one tradition you hope always remains part of the school?
There's a lot of cool stuff. So interim, I mean, isn't, that's a program we do, but that has been around. That is not since the inception of the school. That's been around somewhere around 30 plus years. So probably more than that actually at this point. But like that's something that I hope stays through, and that is a plan to stay through. There's actually talk about we're trying to build our endowment a little bit, so those would be endowed, and so nobody would have to pay anything out of pocket for those. Again, Danesapalooza is a super cool. Our student council live streamed that this year, so that was on the front lawn. Students come out, it's a musical thing. They can play whatever they want. And you really got to see a lot of the cool skills that students have. There's something called Snow, which is called Silly Night Out. And it's a dance, but it also has like a comedic aspect. They had faculty who did like dad jokes, and everybody dressed kind of funky, and like it was just a way to put their personality out there. So that's a super cool thing. More recently, and this is only in the last couple of years, when we've started doing winter concerts. That yes, there's like the traditional winter concert, but there's also one that this, as long as it's approved, the students can literally do whatever they want. So they bring their culture out, they bring whatever songs they want to do, they'll do poetry, they'll do anything like that. So that again is a really good way to see students for who they are, what they do, and what they like to do. I like anything where you get to learn more about the students and see how skilled they actually are. Because I know, especially as a high schooler, I was not nearly as skilled as these kids. I didn't have this stuff in my, in my foray of here's what I'm really good at. I was pretty straightforward with my things, and these kids are unreal with what they know and how they can do things.
Well, it certainly seems like a wonderful opportunity for them to express their creativity and, among their peers, the faculty, staff, et cetera.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Alex, before we speak about admissions, is there anything about Fountain Valley School that we didn't discuss today that you'd like to mention?
It's a really interesting and unique location, and it's a unique place. And I really feel, and I don't know necessarily, other boarding schools might feel this as well. And you go back to tradition, you go back to how long the school's been there, but our space really changes who we are and what we are and really drives it. Speaking to alums from the 60s as far back, what the school meant to them and what the space meant to them. We're this giant campus, being 230 students on 1,100 acres, almost all faculty living on campus, but it can be a really spread out place. We have 11 miles of mountain biking trails on campus. I mean, you just don't get that many other places. And then we have the mountain campus, which is 40 acres, as I mentioned earlier, in Boa Vista, Salida area, Colorado. So we use that. That's a certified dark sky space. It's 100+ person cabin, for lack of a better term, with, industrial kitchen. We use that for retreats. So every class goes up there for retreats. We use that for different entities. We even rent it out. We do alumni weekend there. And that is, again, this kind of like bring back to nature, bring back to calming space. But then you parlay it with, it's also really rigorous academics. I mean, if you look at our course curriculum, which is always online, I mean, you go up to like differential equations and math stuff that like I can't even conceptualize. So it's interesting to see kind of the dichotomy of like, let's go ride a horse, let's go hike, and then, but also you have this incredibly difficult academic curriculum on the side of it too. So it's a very unique combination of endeavors.
So, Alex, if someone's interested in Fountain Valley School, how might they go about starting the admissions process?
So the easiest, you can go on fvs.edu. If you want to go to fvs.edu/explore, that's a really good page to kind of get a snapshot of the school and to fill out an inquiry form. Of course, we love at schools when you fill out an inquiry form, so we have your information and in the system. And then we have, a couple different ways to apply to the school. If you just jump into it, we use Gateway to Preps. We use the SAO, so the single application online, and we also have an internal. And all of that information is at fvs.edu/apply. And you can also always email us at admission@fvs.edu, call us. There's always a lot of ways to get in touch with us.
That's awesome, Alex. So once again, the website address, fvs.edu. Well, great. This has been really nice. I've enjoyed our conversation and certainly enjoyed our discussion and learning more about the Fountain Valley School. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Jeffrey. It's been great being here.
Awesome. So once again, Alex Winnicker, the Director of Enrollment Operations at the Fountain Valley School in Colorado Springs, Colorado.
Thank you for listening to the Why Boarding School podcast. We look forward to you joining us for our next episode. Please remember to subscribe to the Why Boarding School podcast and help us spread the word. Until next time.